Good morning, everyone. We are the reporters for today, October 4, 2025. I am Roxanne P. Marquan, and together with me is Michaela Lekigan and Apple Makatimpag. So before we start, this is the topic that we will going to discuss for today. The first one is scope and sequence of arts for grades 1 to 6. And the second one, introduction to basic arts concepts. And the third one is visual arts and elements exploration. The fourth one is art history connection. And the fifth one is still life composition. And the last one is performing arts. But before we dig in into that discussion, this is our word of wisdom. Art is not what you see, but what you make others see. This is from Edgar Degas. So before we start, are you ready to our activity? So this is our instruction. Using the colored paper, cut a different shape and organize it based on what you want. It can be a shape of house, fruits, or things. Place it with a bond paper like a collage. So using your colored paper, cut it with different shape and then form that one into the things or like house, fruits that you want. Are we clear? Okay. So since you're all done with your activity, let's proceed to our discussions. But before that, here are the things that we aim to achieve in the end of the lesson. So the first one is to describe the scope and sequence of the arts curriculum from grade 1 to grade 6. Second is to identify the key learning competencies per grade level. And the third one is to understand how art concepts progress from simple to complex skills. The fourth one is to recognize how art supports activity, expression, and cultural appreciation. Scope and sequence of the arts curriculum from grades 1 to 6. So before that, let's all know what is scope. So scope, it is an outline and deep of content. It is what is thought. And the sequence is the order in which the content and skills were introduced. It is when it's taught. So, in scope, mao ni siya ang atong gina-expect or what is being taught. Or it is what we expecting into that particular nga lesson. And then si sequence, this is when it's taught or kanusa ni mahitabo nga lesson or discussion. So together, they ensure continuity and progression in learning art and skills from grades 1 to grade 6. So to make it more clear, so here is for grade 1. So grade 1, it is more on discovering arts. So the focus here is introduction to art and basic elements. For example, here is nadiri ang lines, shapes, and colors. And also, it involves drawing simple objects and patterns. So the basic art materials like crayons, paper, and paint, and also the skills is to identify and use basic elements of arts. So the value here is can express joy and curiosity through art making. So here we can use line as an introducing for we all know that from the kindergarten they use or they prefer to use the simple um, elements for the students. Like for example, is the line, shape. It is very common for kindergarten. But the main reason for this in arts, especially in grade 1, not all the students in grade 1 are already familiar or are already know about these lines and objects, especially the colors, right? Because not all students from kindergarten know about lines, know about shapes, know about the colors. So here, it also needs to introduce again for the students about that one. Because not all students are easy or um, fast learners. Okay? So, here it is more discovering. Like, oh, mauday ni ang color nga orange. Oh, this is the other shapes, the eye. Mauday ni ang kuan. So, it is more on curiosity sa grade 1. In grade 2, we have here exploring creativity. So the focus here is building on basic art concepts, and it involves patterns, textures, and color mixing. And also drawing simple objects and patterns. So in basic art materials here also can be used a paint, paper, and crayons. So the skills that we can develop here is they can identify and use basic elements of art. And the value here is they can express joy and curiosity through art making. So, din is a grade 2 is since they have already and since they already know about the colors or shapes, so they can easily or they can identify na kung unsa ni siya nga elements or unsa ni siya nga shape. So into that they can express their their ideas. They can express their curiosity or their joy. So in grade 3, the focus here is to developing visual expression. And it involves balance, symmetry, and space in composition. So it involves use of contrast and emphasis. And also, it involves local cultural artworks and motifs. So the skills that we can develop this one is to express personal ideas through arts, and the value here is we can show respect for cultural diversity. So dere in grade 3, since they have this idea naman, since they already know about the colors, the shapes, the lines, and here they can create a balance work of arts. They can create, like for example, a balance of a color. They know how to balance the color, how to balance the line, how to balance the shape. Okay? And through that, they can express their personal ideas through arts. So next is we have the grade 4. So we have appreciating Philippine arts. So the focus here is culture, and identity in arts. So it involves folk arts, traditional crafts, and festival. And also it contains understanding proportion and harmony, creating art that inspired by Filipino culture. So the skills that we can develop here is to interpret cultural themes in visual form, and the value here is to develop pride in Filipino heritage. So there is a grade 4. So grade 4 is we develop here Filipino culture or the Philippine arts. So through that, we will going to introduce the Filipino art or the Philippine arts to our students. Like for example, in the picture, there's a bahay kubo and there is nanay or ate doing a naninhig siya, no? So by simple as that, we will know already that this is made up for Filipino or this is inspired by Filipino because as we see it, there's a walis or there is broom. So we can easily identify, oh, this is Filipino. This is a Philippine art. So through that, our students will know, oh, nasa the ay Philippine arts di ay. So through that, we develop the students on how to appreciate a Filipino arts. So that is for grade 4. So in grade 5 is developing techniques. So the first here is the art elements with purpose. So it involves perspective, depth, and proportion, and also it contains materials like painting, printmaking, and sculpture, and also digital art introduction. So the skills that we can develop here is it enhance our technical proficiency and creativity. And the value here is the perseverance and responsibility in artistic work. So here in grade 5, so we all know that grade 5 already can understand. They have already this strategy or techniques in their self. So they can use their techniques in making arts or in expressing their ideas or expressing their feelings or emotions. So yeah, it can also be enhance their creativity by doing what they want or by doing the things that they like to express. So in grade 6, we have creating with meaning. So the focus here is art as communication. So it involves symbolism and expressions and also integration of art with other disciplines and community-based art projects. So the skills that we can develop here is it can create artworks that express social themes and personal values. And the value here is we can use art to communicate ideas and inspire others. So in grade 6, since kabalo na dyan sila unsaon pag identify unsaon pag color unsa what are the different colors or unsa na ang lahi-lahi nga colors. So here they can easily express, they are more excited to express their feelings or by creating their art that contains a meaning. In overall, so the K to 6 arts curriculum grade 1 to grade 3, it is more on exploring basic elements. And also this is theme-based lesson. So kay dili pa man ka makadiretso o ka ng padrawing sa bata ug balay naa sa grade 1. Dili ka makadiretso og padrawing og balay nga second floor or balay nga complete gyud like na ay bintana, na ay terrace, na ay kuan, dili ka makadirect ana sa grade 1 or grade level nga grade 1. Kay dili pa sila fully developed or dili pa sila fully known about the shapes and colors nga ilahang pwede magamit. So here in grade 6, grade 4 to 6, they are more on skill developments and cultural exploration. Diri na makuan na ilahang ma-develop na ilahang mindset about the culturals, the environments, or their community. So now let's proceed to our next topic, which is the grade 1 Introduction to Basic Arts Concept. Kaysa pag first nato nga topic is it is the scope and sequence man for grades 1 to 6, which is atong gibuak-buak ang each grade level. Like grade 1, unsay na dito, grade 2, unsay na, until sa grade 6, kung unsay naa sa ilaha. But today, let's focus usa sa grade 1. But before that, things that we aim to achieve in the end of the lesson. So the first one is to identify the basic elements of arts, such as line, shape, and colors. And the second one is to demonstrate simple art techniques using crayons, paint, and papers. And the third one is to express feelings and ideas through simple artworks. So before we start, I have a question. What is art? Art, it is a way of expressing your ideas, feelings, and imagination. It can be through drawing, painting, cutting, and coloring. So, diri sa art, we can use art when we are expressing our feelings or emotions. Like for example, you are sad or you are alone. Then you can use the arts to make an artwork that that describes your emotions, that describes your feelings. So when like for example, lagot kaayo ka. So therefore, ganahan ka mag drawing. So you use the red color crayons, then you kanang nagkaras-karas ka, nag-ana-ana ka. So through doing that, therefore you represent that, that describes that your emotions is angry. Yes, angry or naglagot ka. So mao nang imong gikaras-karas kay naglagot ka or nagkaras-karas ka using the red color nga crayons. So that represents a angry emotions. So next is, let's go to basic elements of art. So the first one we have line. Importante dyan is si line, no? So, unsa man ni si line? So line is a mark with length and direction. It can be straight, curve, and zigzag line. Like zigzag, ana siya nga line, no? And it can be straight, or curve, or etc. So line, it is very important. Kay ang line man, maoy ato ang tandanan para makahimo og shape, para makahimo ta og balay. Kay kung dili ka kay pa mo drawing, walay line imong mga drawing, so there's nothing nga mahitabo or there is nothing nga imuhang ma-form. So next is shape. Unsa man is si shape? Unsa may purpose ani ni shape? So shape, it is a forms made by lines. Can be circle, square, or triangle, and etc. So kung wala si line, wala say shape. Kay si shape, use na ni siya or naalam ni siya if naasay line. Like for example, you do a shape nga kuan nga shape. I mean the line. You use the 4 lines. So when you use the 4 lines, like this one and this one, this one and this one, you can create a square or you can create a triangle using the lines. Pero dili sad pod pasabot nga one line o naka-create na ka og shape. Dili na maoy ako pod pasabot. But instead, when you do a lot of lines, you can create a shapes. So now let's continue to color. So in color, sa may purpose ni color diri? So color gives life and emotion to artworks. Can be a primary colors or secondary colors. So ang purpose ni color kay mao ni siya kung sa tao pa ni, kung ikaw luspad, patay na katan-aon. Pero kung ikaw ng lipstick, ng pagwapa, therefore ang tanaw sa mga tao sa imo, oh kani kay active, energetic. What my point is, color can give life to your artwork. Kay kung puro ra na lines or shapes imong gibuhat, wa may lami or wala man siya, there is no life behind your artwork. Kay kung puro ra shape, bati kayo tan-aon. But when you include the colors in your artwork, so therefore maka-engage siya og attention. Let's explore the lines. Unsa man yun ni si lines? Ngano sige manigbalik-balik. So, this can be thick or thin. It can be also straight or wavy. We can use lines to draw objects, patterns, and designs. So, morning giingon nga lines is very important yun. Kay nga no, kung walay line, wala man tay ma-forms or wala man tay ma-form nga shape. So, now let's explore the shapes. Kinaman dyan ni siya, sunod man dyan ni, pag una lines, karon kay shapes. So, shapes are everywhere. Do you agree? Yes, shapes can be everywhere. Like for example, toys, houses, and yes, nature. So, ngano na-appeal man diri si nature? Example ka ng tree or kung wala mo kasabot unsa ng tree, dili tree nga number, but tree nga punuan. So, kaning tree contains a lot of different shapes. Like, for example, kana iyahang dahon. Nagkuan siya, nagform siya. Ang uban, nagform og oblong. Right? Ang uban, nagform og zigzag nga kuan. Ang uban is nag-contain og repeating nga shape. So now, let's explore the colors. Unsa man ni si colors? Ngano ni balik naman po ni. So just like what I've said earlier, colors can give lives. Colors can express what you feel and what your emotion is. So now we have a primary colors. Unsa man ni primary colors? So the primary colors is red, blue, and yellow. And these colors can create new one if you combine together. Like for example, anang blue and red or red and blue. Unsay mahitabo, ang outcomes is purple. So diri ma-enhance gyud ang imuhang curiosity. Ma-develop good ang imong curiosity in mind. Kay, diri may explore man nimo, kumubuhat da ita ani. Or ato i-combine ang different nga kuan, like for example, the yellow and the orange. So when you combine that one, the secondary color is, for example, the yellow and the orange. So therefore, when you combine that, there is a yellow orange.
Now, let us continue to the visual art and element exploration. But first, here are the things that we aim to achieve at the end of the discussion. First, identify the basic elements of visual art. Describe how artists use their elements to create artworks. Explore and experiment with line, shapes, colors, and texture. Appreciate the importance of creativity and expression in art. Now, what do you think is visual art? It's a form of art that you can see and touch. It also includes painting, drawing, sculpture, collage, printmaking, and many more. In short, visual art is a type of art that you look and can help you express your feelings and tell stories. Artists uses different elements and principles to create meaning and beauty. Next, we have here the 7 elements of arts. First, the line, the path created by moving points. Second is shape, a flat enclosed area like circle, square, and triangle. The third one is color, hue, value, and the intensity. The next one is texture, how things feel or look like they feel. The fifth one is value, the lightness or darkness of a color. 6 is form, the 3D shapes like cubes or spheres. The 7th one is pair. There are not around, between, and without objects. Now, next, we have here the exploring line. As you observe, this type of line, it can be straight, wavy, curved, thick, or thin. The next one is the shape, and form wherein the shapes are 2D flat, while forms are 3D. Now, let us proceed to exploring color. It means learning about how colors work and how they make us feel. It is an important part of visual art because colors can express our moods, emotion, and meaning. Next is exploring texture. Means learning about how things feel or look like they feel in art. In short, exploring textures helps artists show how things look and feel in their art. Real textures can be felt if it is rough, smooth, or soft. The last one is the values and space. The values in space in a visual art refer to how light and dark colors are. Value is adding a light and dark tones to show depth, while space serves as a foreground, middle ground, and background in art. Next, let's proceed to art history connection. Here we have first the things that we aim to achieve at the end of the discussion. First, we have defined what art history is and why is it important. Identify the major art periods and their characteristics. Recognize famous artwork and artists from different areas. Appreciate how art reflects people's lives, culture, and history beliefs. What is art history? Art history is the study of artwork from the past. It is the study of how art was developed over time. It helps us understand culture, tradition, and human creativity. Every artwork tells a story about a time and people. It helps us understand how people express their ideas, beliefs, and emotion through art. First, we have the prehistoric art. Prehistoric art is the earliest form of art made by humans before written history. It shows how early people expressed their ideas, beliefs, and daily life through drawings, carvings, and sculpture. Early human uses natural pigments to draw animals and handprints. The time of this was before written history. Some examples of these is cave paintings, carvings, and stone tools. And the purpose is to record events, communicate, or for rituals. Now, let's proceed to ancient art. Ancient art is the art made by the early civilization after people learned to write. It shows their beliefs, daily life, and cultural through paintings, sculptures, and buildings. This was found in Egypt, Greece, and Rome. It shows God's leader and daily life, and Asian art used symbols and detailed sculpture, like pyramids, Egyptian walls painting, and Greek statues. The time period of this is around 3000 BCE to 400 CE after prehistoric times. Next, we have the medieval art. Medieval art is the art made during the Middle Ages, from around 500 to 1400 AD. It came after ancient art and was mostly about religion and Christian church. It uses a bright colors and gold to show holiness. Next, we have the Renaissance. Renaissance art is the art made during the Renaissance period, about 1400 to 1600. The word Renaissance means rebirth because it was the time when people became interested again in learning, science, and beauty, just like in ancient Greece and Rome. The artist studied realism, human anatomy, and perspective. Here are some of the famous artists in Renaissance. First, we have Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. And here are some of the examples of their artwork. First, we have the Mona Lisa, and the Last Supper, and the creation of Adam. The purpose of these is to show the importance of humans, knowledge, and the beauty of the world. The next is we have the Baroque and Romanticism. We have here first the Baroque art, which has the style that is dramatic, detailed, and full of movement. And it has a mood of emotional and grand. Artists wanted to impress and inspire. Features are strong contrast between light and dark, realistic figures, and religious of royal subjects. Famous artists of these is Caravaggio, Rembrandt, Peter Paul, and Rubens. Example of these is painting showing a dramatic biblical scene with a bright light and deep shadows. While on Romanticism, the style of these is expressive and emotional, focusing on feelings, nature, and imagination. It set a mood on a passionate and dramatic way, but more about inner emotion than power. It also features nature's beauty and power, heroic or tragic figures in rich colors. Famous artists of this is Francisco Goya, Eugene de la Croix, and G.M.W. Turner. Example of the painting is a painting showing a stormy sea or a person lost in thought before a beautiful landscape. In short, the Baroque is more on drama and grandeur, while on Romanticism is about the emotion and imagination. Next, here we have the modern art. Modern art is a style that broke away from traditional painting. Artists began to show their own feelings, ideas, and imagination instead of just copying what they saw. This is where the artists begin experimenting with style and color. The main idea of modern art is to focus on expression rather than perfection. Use of bright colors, abstract shape, and new techniques. Artists experimented with different materials and styles. Here are some of the common styles in modern art. First is the Impressionism, which has soft colors and light. Next is Cubism, shapes and angles. And then Surrealism. It is dreamlike and strange. Then abstract art doesn't look realistic at all. Example of the modern art is the Starry Night by Van Gogh. The next is the contemporary art. Contemporary art is the art of today. It shows modern life, ideas, and issue using new materials, technology, and styles. It often makes people think of or feel about what's happening in the world. Contemporary art focuses on current events, culture, and identity. Artists use different materials from paint to videos, recycle items, or digital tools. Sometimes it looks unusual or surprising, but it encourages viewers to interpret or participate. Example of contemporary art where we have the digital drawing, sculptures from recycled materials, and so on.
Let's move on to our next topic. So, our next topic is still life composition. So, before we dig deeper to our next topic, here are the things that we aim to achieve at the end of the lesson. So, first, define what a still life is. Second, identify the basic elements of a still life composition. Third, create their own still life artwork using simple objects. Lastly, appreciate the beauty of everyday things through art. So, a still life is an artwork that shows non living things arranged by the artist. So, a still life is a genre of art that depicts inanimate objects such as fruits, flowers, bottles, books, and dishes, carefully arranged by the artist. So, the artist manipulate the selection of objects, lighting, and composition to achieve the balance and convey meaning. So, for example of this is the basket of fruit by Caravaggio. So next is the elements in a still life. So there are five core elements that artists manipulate in a still life composition. So the first one is line. So line is the outline and edges of the objects. So refers to the outline and edges of the objects. So number two is shape and form. So round, square, tall or flat objects. So, shape and form deals with the dimensions and structures of the objects, such as whether they are round, square, tall, or flat objects. The third one is the color. So, color is a warm, cool, or neutral tones. So, the palette used for the color is categorized as warm, cool, or neutral tones. Number four is value. So light on dark areas. So the value use of light and dark areas to create contrast and dimensions. And the number five texture. Smooth, rough, soft, or shiny surfaces. So the texture or the visual and implied feel of the surfaces, which can be smooth, rough, soft, or shiny. And the visual is the example of a still life labeled with these elements, with those five elements in a still life composition. So next is the composition in art. So composition means how objects are arranged in the artwork. So composition is a fundamentally how objects are arranged within an artworks. A good composition is essential for a compelling still life or any artworks and typically incorporates with these three main principles are the balance, focus, and contrast. So first is balance. Balance are objects are evenly placed or objects are evenly placed to create a sense of visual equilibrium. So when we say equilibrium, which means to say is equal, patas. And then next is focused. So one main object stands out to capture the viewer's attention and serve as the central point of interest. And lastly is the contrast. So contrast is mix of light and dark areas. So the contrast, the artwork utilizes a mix of light and dark areas or value to add depth, drama, and separation between objects. So, goal of the good composition is to guide the viewer's eyes and create a harmonious and meaningful visual experiences. So next is the types of still life. So there are three types of still life. So the first one is the traditional, the modern, and the symbolic. So first is the traditional. So when we say traditional, like fruits, flowers, and tableware. So traditional is focusing on classic subjects like fruits, flowers, and tableware. And next is the modern. So everyday objects like toys, tools, or gadgets, like everyday objects like using everyday objects like toys, tools, or gadgets. This moves the genre into contemporary life. So when we say modern, it is the present. And next is the symbolic. So objects that tell a story or represent an idea. So symbolic, where the objects are chosen specifically to tell a story or represent an idea. This is about the this is about the meaning behind or the arrangement. So activity idea chose three favorite objects and explain what they represent. So let's move on to the famous still life artist. So famous still life artist and a key characteristics of their work in the genre. So the first, there are four. And then the first one is the Caravaggio or the realistic lighting. So Caravaggio, known for his realistic lighting, often for a dramatic, which brings intensity to his still life elements like the baskets of fruit, like what I've said earlier. And then next is Paul Cézanne or the shapes and color harmony. So Paul Cézanne, a revolutionist still life by focusing on shapes and color harmony, particularly his geometric approach to fruit and titled Perspective on Table Tops. Next is Vincent van Gogh or the texture and emotion. So Vincent van is his still life paintings are characterized by his textures and emotion, using thick impasto and vibrant expressive color, like in his famous sunflowers. And next is a Georgia O'Caf or Cafe. So flowers and nature forms. So G- Georgia is the famous for her focus on flowers and nature forms. So often using dramatic close-ups and abstractions to explore their essence. So visual 3 to 4 sample artworks with artist names. So suggest adding a visual component 3 to 4 sample artworks with artist names to illustrate these points, which would be a great way to visually connect the artist names to their distinct. So next is the steps to create a still life artwork. So here are the steps on how to create a still life artwork. So first is choose your objects, or starts with choosing the objects. For example, fruits, cups, and flowers. Number 2, arrange them on a table or surface. And it is important to arrange them to form the composition. Number 3 is observe carefully the shapes and the shadows. So it is important to focus shifts to careful observation, paying attention to the shapes and the shadows. Number 4, sketch lightly the outline. So before sketching the outlines, make sure that the placement and form is accurate. And number 5 is add color, textures, and details. So these steps involve rendering the work by adding color, textures, and details. Lastly, finalize with highlights and background. So then, finalizing the piece with attention to highlights and the background. So let's move on to the last topic, which is the performing arts. So before we dig deeper to our last topic, here are the things that we aim to achieve at the end of the lesson. So first is identify the different forms of performing arts. Number 2, demonstrate simple movements or expression in a performance. Lastly, appreciate how performing arts express feelings, stories, and culture. So performing arts help us to build our confidence and creativity, express emotions and stories. So are a powerful way to express emotions and stories or our self-expression. So develop teamwork and discipline. So they teach us essential skills like teamwork and discipline, which are vital for collaboration, performances, and rehearsals. And appreciate culture and traditions. So they foster an cultural awareness and ability to appreciate culture and tradition by often drawing on a historical or diverse cultural elements. So visual is a students performing in a school play or dance show. So students performing in a school play or dance show is contextually perfect, illustrating these benefits in an educational setting. So this makes a strong case for the importance of performance arts in development. So there are four types of performing arts. So the first one is music. So singing, playing instruments, and composing. So this covers the auditory art of sound and organized in time. Number two is dance. So expressing through body movement and rhythm. So this is the art of movement and physical expression. Then number three is the drama and theater. So acting out stories and characters. So involves this involves acting out stories and characters. So this is the narrative art of live performance in the theater. So lastly is speech and poetry. So using voice and language creatively. So this category includes spoken word, recitation, and oratory, which are often considered distinct performance arts. So next is the dance as performing arts. So uses body movements, rhythm, and expressions. So there are three types of dance as a performing arts. So the first one is the folk dance, second is the ballet, third is the modern dance. So first one is the folk dance. So traditional and cultural dance. So an example of this is the Kuyang Festival here in our community. Next is the ballet. So graceful and classical. So it's more on focus sa nature. Then the modern dance is free and expressive. So modern dance is focuses on being free and expressive, representing a break from a classical structures. And then activity idea is to move to the rhythm of a short song. So this suggestions to move to the rhythm a short song is a simple, engaging, and direct way to encourage participation and embody the principle of dance, which are the three types: folk dance, the ballet, and the modern dance. So next is music as performing arts. So the art of sound and rhythm, includes singing, playing instruments, composing, and conducting. So the communicative power of music, noting that it expresses our moods, feelings, and stories. So, for example of this is the school choir, marching bands, and also the soul singers. So, the activity idea of this is clap or tap to the beat of a familiar song. So, the suggestion to clap or tap to the beat of a familiar song is a great low barrier way to experience and internalize the concept of rhythm and the core of the music. So next is drama as performing arts. So involves acting, speaking, and expressing emotion. So it is performed in the theater, plays, or short skits, and also helps develop our communications, confidence, and empathy. So by this, it is the primary activities acting, speaking, and expressing our emotions. So this emphasizes that the verbal and emotional nature of the art form. So drama is they typically perform in theater and short skits and also plays. So covering both formal and informal dramatic settings. So the activity idea of this is a short role play. For example, greeting a friend or pretending to be an animal. So it is already a short role play, or it is what we call the drama. So let's move on to the performing arts around the world. So Philippines, Japan, Africa, and America. So first is the Philippines. So tinikling, kundiman, and stage play. So Philippines highlights diverse forms including the famous bamboo dance, which is the tinikling. So the traditional art song is the kundiman and the general stage plays. Next is the Japan Kabuki Theater. So Japan features the highly stylized classical dance and drama that the Kabuki Theater. Next is the Africa drum and the dance. So Africa broadly categorized by drum and dance by acknowledging the central role of rhythm and movement in many diverse African cultures. So next is the America or the Broadway musicals. So America focuses on the Broadway musicals representing a major large-scale contemporary theatrical form. And the visual is photos of performance from different cultures. So, ano siya? So it is essential to truly bring this content to life and illustrate the variety and richness of the global performing arts traditions. So it is a great arts that exploring the worldwide scope of performances. So last is skills developed through performing arts. So there are four. So the first one is the confidence and self-expression. So performing live requires bravery and provides an outlet for sharing emotions and ideas publicly. Number two is cooperation and teamwork. So most performing arts like choirs, bands, plays, symbols require synchronized effort and collaboration among the members. The third one is imagination and creativity. So the artist must envision stories, characters, or original movements and musical composition. Last is focus and discipline. So, in time of rehearsals and mastering a performance, whether a dance steps or a musical piece, demands sustained attention and more practice. So, so those four are more effectively and holistic benefits of performing arts showing how they contribute to both personal development such as the confidence and creativity and also the social development like teamwork and discipline. So, to sum up, the grade 1 scope and sequence of arts introduces students to the fundamental concepts of art through engaging in hands-on experiences. So, the curriculum is focused on introducing students to fundamental concepts of art through engaging in hands-on activities. So, learners explores visual arts by understanding the basic elements of arts such as the line, shape, color, and textures while developing creativity and self-expression. So, through still life composition, students enhance their observation and drawing skills by illustrating real life objects. Lastly, in performing arts, they express their ideas through music, movement, and drama, building confidence, coordination, and appreciation for the artistic performance.